Hello and welcome to the Marketing Mix. So glad to be here. It's beautifully sunny where I am today, and I can't tell you how happy it makes me to see the sun. It just lifts my mood. So today we are going to talk about email subject lines. They're a really important part of email marketing, and I feel like sometimes small business owners don't realise how critical a good subject line is to the success of their email. And in fact, they're one of the most important elements of email marketing. Now, why am I saying that? Well, it's because subject lines help people to decide whether or not they are going to open your email. That's one of the things that helps people figure out whether they want to read what you've written about in your email. So if you're wanting to increase your open rates, you really need to be paying attention to your subject line. And you have to put in as much work as you can into creating subject lines that are going to entice people to open your email. Almost as much work as you put into the content of your email. Okay. So what makes a good subject line? So let's talk about what a good email subject line is. So it puts your readers at the center of what you're doing. Yes, we all have an ego. So personalizing your subject line is actually quite a good thing to do. Now, it doesn't have to be lots of personal information. There's two words that you can use in your subject line that can help you to personalize that email. You and your. So those two words are really powerful because then that makes people feel like this is meant for them. Okay. But you can, of course, use other information that you want to help personalize subject lines. Sometimes I'll use people's first names in the subject line. My email software allows me to do that. And that's why when I ask people to sign up for my emails, I ask them to put in their first name. I make it mandatory. First name, email address. Those two things help me to communicate with my subscribers in a way that I feel makes my newsletter friendly and approachable. I'm referring to them by their name. So that's the first thing. Creating a sense of urgency. At some point, we've all had FOMO. We've had that fear of missing out. And especially for things that we feel might help us in our businesses or help us in our lives. If you're the type of person who loves getting a bargain, that email that says you've got a certain amount of time to buy whatever it is that's it's talking about, that urgency, if either you were thinking of buying that product or service or you're buying it on an impulse, but that urgency is going to make you get your credit card out. So people don't want to miss out on things. So creating that really sort of not scarcity, but urgency in your subject line is a good way to go. Something I'm not very good at on purpose is using humour. My humour almost always happens accidentally. I'm never funny on purpose. But if it's appropriate for your business, making people laugh goes a long way. So if you're good at creating jokes and puns, that will make your subject lines feel more relaxed, more approachable. Okay. And of course, they need to be related to business and to the content of the email. Remember, what you're trying to do with that subject line is get people interested enough to open your email. The next thing is getting them in the feels. All sorts of ways of pulling at your readers' heartstrings. And this tactic is really great if you run a social enterprise or a charity. So think about how you can use that and what you can do and what works well for you that will help people really be motivated to support your organization. And it can work for small businesses as well, right? Because there is a lot of motivation to support independent businesses. So it's really, really a good way to help people understand, just get their emotions going, really. Gwen's just said, just caught you. What was the first thing other than their name? 2 words, you and your. Really powerful. You and your. That makes it sound like that email's for them rather than just you broadcasting to them. So get them in their fields. Appeal to their curiosity. I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit nosy, especially when it comes to other people's houses. Like, I've been living here for 7 years, and I am still signed up to Rightmove and Zoopla emails because houses in my area don't come up very often. But when they do, I really like to have a little nosy. But that subject line of just asking a question or, telling them a fact that is relevant to them will make them want to open the email. So for me, that Rightmove email address, a new I can't remember how it says it. It's, a new property has been listed in your area. And I'm like, oh, I've got to have a look. I've got to have a look. So what can you do to make your subject lines make people curious to want to know more? The next thing is to use numbers. I love lists. People love lists. So using numbers in your subject line to help people understand how long it might take them to read your email. So if your subject line talks about 3 things, they're like, oh, 3 things. It's not going to take me a massively long time to read this email. I'm going to open it now. And odd numbers tend to work best. And 3 seems to be the number that really works, is the most effective. And I don't know about you, but realistically, if I'm asked to remember things, 3 is probably the most amount of things that I can keep in my head at any one time. So using those lists, 3 tips to whatever it is, 5 ways that you can, 3 disasters to avoid if you're, 3 disasters to avoid if you're a jewelry maker. So just using those kinds of ways helps people to really understand what's going to be in your email, but also how long is it going to take them to read what you've written. And lastly, asking a question, okay? Especially if it's obvious that the answer lies in the email, right? It's hard to resist, and you can combine that with personalization to have a bigger impact. So if I were going to write an email about subject lines, the subject line I might use could be, are your email subject lines impactful enough? Or I could say, how can you increase open rates with your email subject line? So you can see that that's actually, people are thinking, well, oh, I didn't know you could increase your email open rate with subject line. And she's asking me how you can do it. And I'm guessing that she's going to tell me in that email. So it's a really good prompt to help people take notice and open the email. So remember, subject line, the heavy lifting that it's doing for you when you create it is getting people to open your email. And people always, whenever I talk about email marketing, people always ask me, how do I increase my open rates? This is one way, and you really need to spend as much time as you can crafting those subject lines and getting them to work really hard for you. You have seconds of attention when people are scrolling through their inboxes. They're really looking to see what they need to read now. And if they decide that they're going to keep your email for later might never happen. So you want to help them prioritize your email and open it now rather than later. Okay, So let's talk about how you can create thumb-stopping subject lines. So there's one thing that I do when I write my subject lines that absolutely works for me. And I found I actually discovered it after a while of doing email marketing. So whilst I've worked in email marketing since 2012, really to have my own experience with it, I've been really testing it for myself for the last 7 years. And the one thing that really works for me is to write the subject line after I've written the content of the email. Right? So I've written, and if you're on my email list, you know that I don't write very long emails. They're not scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Most of my emails have fewer than 20 lines of text, but those 20 lines of text give me the inspiration I need to write my subject lines. I've got words in there, I know what I'm talking about, and then I can really look at, well, what is it that I want to write? How do I want to write this subject line in a way that is going to make people open my email? But beyond that, what else can you do? So one thing I do regularly is look at what's worked before. So go back over your previous emails and look at the open rates. Remember, your subject line helps people to decide whether they're going to open that email. So you need to really pay attention to the emails that have got the most open rates, the biggest open rates. That helps you understand which subject lines you've used previously that have really worked. And once you know that information, you're going to start using that to create more subject lines like that. You're going to use the same formats and maybe the same amount of words. Maybe you've used emojis. You're going to sprinkle emojis throughout more subject lines. So you really need to just kind of analyze them and look at what you did that helped you get those higher open rates that you've got. The next thing that you want to do is to keep them short and sweet. You don't want your subject line to be cut off in people's inboxes. And if you're like me, I do a combination. So if I'm not at my desk, I will read my emails on my phone. At my desk, I use Outlook, but I have a preview pane. So I have about that much space in my inbox. I don't know if you can see. To tell, about that wide, that tells me who it's from and what the subject line is. And you don't want your subject line to get cut off in that. So try and keep yours short. So try to use fewer than 50 characters. Who remembers Twitter in the days that you had 140 characters and you really had to make each one of those count? So 50 characters or fewer helps people to read your subject lines on their mobile, and it takes effort. It does take effort. So when you've written your subject line, look at words that you can remove. What's in there that's unnecessary, and take out stuff and try and keep to those 50 characters. I'm not saying that longer subject lines don't work. But in my experience, if you use a longer subject line, put the most important information at the beginning. Don't let that important piece of information be right at the end and get cut off in someone's inbox. So if you really do need to use more than 50 characters, what is it that you want people to know? And that needs to be at the beginning of your subject line. Use a recognizable from name. If you heard me talking about email marketing before, this is really important. People need to know who that email is coming from. Your email service provider will let you customize this. And my advice is to put your business name in that space where it says this is who this is from. Put your business name in there. If you want to add your first name, that's fine. but pair it with your business name, because people are signing up to your business. And I mean, fortunately for me, my first name is part of my business name. But if yours isn't, and I can see that Richard is here. Richard's business he's got a couple of businesses actually, but one of his businesses is called the Digital Pixies. And if I just got a random email from Richard, I'd be like, Richard who? But if his display name was Richard-Digital Pixies, I'd know instantly. Richard's also said, wouldn't the preview pane depend on the size of the screen? It does, which is why I test my emails. I look at them on my mobile phone as well. So if I can see the entire subject line on my mobile, I'm confident it will work on a laptop. But realistically, you want the most important part of what your subject line is at the beginning. So recognizable from name. Avoid those clickbait subject lines. You know, people are really protective when it comes to their inboxes. And, you know, if you give them a clickbait subject line and they open it up and your email has got nothing to do with what's in there, they're going to stop opening your emails. Or worse still, they might unsubscribe, which means that you can't talk to them at all. And even worse than that, they might mark your emails as spam. And if you get too many spam reports, email providers like Gmail and Yahoo will mark your future messages as spam. So, you know, don't make those subject lines clickbaity. We all know the ones. And avoid spammy words. So avoid things like free and discount, cash. You know, those things trigger spam filters. And the same goes for too much punctuation and lots of emojis. So if you want to use emojis in your subject line, that's absolutely fine. I'd say stick to 1, 2 at the most. Don't go more than that. And, you know, don't use like 5 exclamation marks, because that's where spam filters think, right, this is clickbaity and it is spam, and they're going to just put you in the spam folder. Now, the other thing that you need to pay attention to is the timing. So a well-crafted subject line at the right time is going to get emails opened. So when is the right time? I always get asked, this is another question, I always get asked, when's the right time to send my email? And I'm going to say that depends. That depends on your industry, and it depends on your business. It depends on your subscribers, right? So there are general guidelines for various industries. So you can start off by looking at those, but realistically, look at what's worked for you before. And this is why I always say that, email marketing, the magic really happens when you look at your metrics. They really help you to understand what's working. So look back at a few emails that you've sent and look at how many people opened your emails and at what time. When did the most opens happen? And you want to really try and send at the time that happens. Now, most opens will happen within the first 3 hours of you sending an email. So what you're looking for in your reports is that real concentration of opens happening and when the majority of them happened. And then test in and around that time as to, whether you can nudge that open rate up. So keep that in mind. And, another thing that really is important is timeliness. So, for example, if you own a bar, sending an email out at 4:45 p.m. on a Thursday, which is now the new Friday, with details of your happy hour, that's probably going to get people to open your emails, particularly if, your target audience is that crowd that goes into the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're like, oh, sure you'll go for a drink. Oh, I've just had an email from so-and-so, they're happy hours tonight. So really understand the kind of right time to send your emails. I create emails for a couple of different types of businesses. One is my hairdressers, and we generally send at lunchtime because that's when all the email addresses we've got are personal email addresses. And the time that we get the most opens is when people are on their lunch breaks looking at their own emails rather than their work emails. So really look at the timeliness of it as well. Another thing that you want to do is use action words. So what is it that you're asking people to do? Okay. One of my best performing subject lines is the one that I use every time I send a recording of a webinar, and it's really simple. The subject line is open for your webinar recording. So I'm telling people exactly what I want them to do. The action words are really powerful and they don't leave your readers wondering what to do next. So think about the types of action words that you can use: open, download, register, save. These are action words that will help people understand what it is that you're wanting them to do next. And then if you're not sure which subject lines you've come up with are the best, make sure that you're testing this. So you can do, it's called an A/B test or a split test, and you can, if you've come up with 2 or 3 different subject lines and you think, oh, I don't know which one to use, take 2 of them and send an email to a proportion of your subscribers with one subject line and to a proportion with the other. And the one that gets the most opens is the one that you want to use with the rest of your list. Okay. And there's just one more way that I want to tell you about how you can increase the effectiveness of your subject line. And this is something that I really, really wish bigger businesses would do, and they don't do it. And so you can really get a march on bigger businesses if that's your competition. The thing I want you to do is use the pre-header text or the preview text. And that's the line that appears under the subject line. So you get the from name, the subject line, the pre-header text. And if you get my newsletter, you'll see every week I use that pre-header text. And it's an extra space for you to promote what's in your newsletter. So you could have an amazing subject line, maybe something like unlock the secrets to a winning marketing strategy. All right, that's great. I want to do that. And then the preview text says, maximize your profitability in 2023. Right. Okay, I'm in. So really, that is going to support your subject line and give you an extra space to promote what your email contains. Now, I know I had a question in my Facebook group. I don't know if Becky's watching today. Gwen says, I'm on the free version of MailChimp. I don't get opens by time, just numbers and percentage. Oh, that's a shame. I wonder, Gwen, if there's a way to sort them in MailChimp in the free version, whether it tells you, whether you can sort it from the most recent to the oldest opens and just get a gauge for that. But this is what I'm finding is happening more and more with email providers that provide free plans. They're really starting to lock people out of certain functionality, and the reporting is really, really crucial. Sorry, MailerLite. I said MailChimp. Sorry, Gwen. MailerLite. Yeah, so they're locking you out of functionality if they're letting you use their platforms for free. And this is why I talk about paying for email marketing. Even if you start on a basic plan, see what that gets you, but paying for it unlocks the power of so much more of that functionality. So Becky is here. Becky in my group asked me about AI and what I think about it. And I'm going to say, Whether you love it or hate it, AI is here to stay. And interestingly enough, while I was preparing for this, my husband reminded me about a conference he went to a while ago, like a few years ago. I'm talking like more than 5 years ago. And there was, it wasn't to do with email marketing. I can't remember what the conference was for. I think it was around software, but there was a company there that said that they had tested subject lines that were written by humans, that was written by AI, and the AI subject lines always performed better. And that was like 5 years ago, I think. So whether you love it or hate it, AI is here to stay. And as small business owners, we need to work out how to use it to make us more efficient. Okay, we don't have a lot of time. We need to get crap loads of stuff done every day. And if AI can make your life easier by making you quicker at things, I'm all for that. It's, using it the right way, you can achieve what you want with your subject line. So know the prompts, the right prompts to use. There are lots of people out there. My friend Christian Downer of Dow Social is doing courses on prompts for ChatGPT. Most of his courses are in person, so if you're in the Peterborough area, go and check him out. If not, follow him on LinkedIn. He talks a lot about AI. So know the right prompts to use with AI. Understand what will and won't work for your industry. So, there's no point in generating subject lines using AI and using, humor if that isn't appropriate for your industry. Okay, so I can't think of anything less appropriate than humor for, say, the funeral industry, funeral business. You do not want an email popping into your inbox that's got a joke in, because it's going to come, like for somebody, it's going to come at a time which is the worst time of their life. They've lost somebody. So really understand what will and won't work for your industry. Know that you don't always have to use the options that you've been given. You can use those as inspiration, as a springboard to work out something that you like, that is appropriate for you, that sounds like you. My biggest concern with AI is that it's just going to make everyone sound the same, and you need to inject your own personality into it. So test stuff as well. Now, I don't know if any of you have noticed, but I have been testing a tool called it's called subjectline.com. That's it. I was going to type it into the chat, but subjectline.com. It's an AI powered, so it's integrating with ChatGPT. It's an AI powered like a rating tool for your subject line. And I've been using that for the past few weeks on my newsletter. And if you receive that, have you noticed that those subject lines have been generated by AI? I'd love to know if you have thought that they don't sound like me. And the way that I've been doing it, the way that subjectline.com works, and it's free to try. You do have to register. They will send you emails. It's an American company, so their data protection, I don't think, is as solid as ours. But they don't bombard you. They don't bombard you with emails. The way I've been using it is that I've been creating a subject line. I've been doing what I do. I write my email, and then I think of the subject line, and then I put it into subjectline.com, and I get it to rate it for me. And sometimes I use what I come up with originally, and other times I will use one of the suggestions they make. So they make suggestions. They make like they say, "Oh, add some urgency," or use some humor, or so they make 4 or 5 suggestions based on what you put into the search field. So I would say try it, give it a go, but use it in a way to make you more efficient, more effective. Don't think it's going to replace you. So Becky, I hope that answers your question. So I hope I've given you enough information to go away and start crafting really great subject lines for your business. They're really important. they're more than just a title for your email. It's really a question of making sure that it's powerful enough that people want to open your email as soon as they get it, and spend time understanding your results, spend time understanding the ones that work. So for Gwen, if MailerLite doesn't give you the timestamps of when people opened your emails, look at the emails that got the most opens. Those are the subject lines that have worked hard for you, that have encouraged people to open your emails. Okay. So it's really difficult to kind of put all this together, and you spend a lot of time doing this, so you want people to read your email. And as I said, take my advice. The thing that works for me is writing the subject line, working on it and crafting it and making sure that it's got everything in it that it needs to have. Do that after you've written the content of your email. Manka said she's used it twice because I mentioned it before, and her open rate has improved. Right, so please go and check subject line out. It's I'm sure they're going to ask you to pay for it at some point, but right now it's free. So I just want to leave you with one thought, is that if you struggle to come up with content for your newsletters, I can make that struggle and that stress go away. I have a brand new service where I will research and come up with newsletter topics for your emails, and you get a year's worth. So if you send 12 newsletters, if you send monthly and you send 12 in a year, you will get a year's worth of newsletter topics done for you. I'll have done all the thinking. All you need to do is write the emails. You take them, you write the emails. You get 36 topics. You've got 3 topics per email, and you get a double whammy with this, because all of those topics can double up as blog posts and as ideas for your social media posts. So do go and check that out. In 2 weeks' time, I've got the wonderful Amanda Webb with me, and she's going to be talking about Google Analytics 4. This is coming. You've got no choice. From the 1st of July, Google is switching off the old Google Analytics and moving everyone to Google Analytics 4. Really important. So please join me in 2 weeks' time, where we'll be giving you the lowdown of the types of metrics that you need to watch out for, and what you need to do to make sure it's switched on before July. So I will see you then. Take care and have a good day.